The gacha community is a joke. It's the butt of the joke on the internet, on Twitch, and in so many gaming spaces as just the slop of the gaming industry. Why? Why is that? Why is that always something that needs to be addressed or joked about in every kind of gacha video? Well, I'm here to talk about it today. I did a video a little while ago kind of talking about, moral grandstanding in the gacha community, and I make my little quip that we play gacha games, so why are you gonna go ahead and do that? Like, you can't be grandstanding like that. And I did get a comment from a viewer, so if you happen to see this, you know who you are. Talking about, like, why do we always have to say that? Like, gacha games can be good games. And there's some truth to that. Gacha games can be good games. But I wanted to take a minute to address and tell you why I think gacha games are the joke of the gaming community and why people do laugh at them or not take them as seriously as other games, as other AA or AAA games, as we would commonly know them in the industry. I'm not getting into the argument of if a gacha game is AA, AAA, or whatever the heck. You know what I mean by AA or AAA, the typical developer titles with more standard monetization practices of one-time purchases, but we're going to get into that video. So let's go through and let's break down why gacha games are a bit of a joke, and we got some visual aids, everybody. We had the paint meta where people are doing MS Paint to draw things out. I'm breaking out the flowchart meta. Okay, time to fucking nerd out, bitches. Okay, I got really aggressive on that one. But first things first, we're going to break down all the different points, reasons, and conclusions as to why gacha games are a joke and why I don't think you can morally grandstand while playing gacha games. Okay, let's dive into this. First things first is monetization. Now, in gaming, you've got about two, generally speaking, kinds of monetization that's available. And first things first is you've got pay to play. Now, typically with a pay to play game, you've got a one-time purchase, and maybe you're doing a one-time purchase for DLC. Another alternative to that is a monthly subscription model, like you would in any kind of typical MMO, like Final Fantasy XIV, to continuously play the game. And then you have certain legendary editions, which suck, but generally don't impact the kind of gameplay, usually kind of like an upgrade from your one-time purchase in that sense. And now, generally speaking, legendary editions don't impact gameplay, unless you're something stupid like Star Wars Outlaws. Then you are a retarded game that actually does have missions that are locked behind the legendary edition, and you suck and you should fail and you deserve to fail. But that's general pay to play. Beneath that, you've got free-to-play models. Now, with free-to-play models, you've got a couple different monetization tools that come into play. You've got cash shops where you can buy, skins. Typically, you can buy power. You can buy a battle pass of some kind that gives you additional resources or combination. Usually, you can buy premium currencies there to help with things. You might be able to buy monthly passes for premium currencies, limited time and new player packs shoved in your face. All the typical cash grab nonsense you would think of generally exists in the cash shop. And then beneath that, you've got your loot box / gacha mechanics, aka it's a slot machine. Let's call a spade here. It's a slot machine where often you'll have limited time characters, limited time weapons, and limited time gacha skins. Now, I will say when it comes to monetization in games, these are not all mutually exclusive. You can have a combination of these various monetization models. Like, for example, you might have a game that does one-time purchases for the base game, also have a monthly subscription, and have a ridiculous cash shop where you can buy power and skins, because then you might end up being World of Warcraft, which frickin' sucks that you have to pay that much for the game and all of that is available. I think it's ridiculous. Do I play WoW? No, I'm just trying to piss off the WoW heads right now, but I think it's pretty shit monetization to have all of that. Look, we're gonna get to the gacha, but I just want to mention that the cash shop does have its own issues as well when it comes to free-to-play model games and why it's not looked upon favorably. And I think arguably the biggest problem for it is buying power. Generally speaking, in free-to-play games or in games in general, buying stamina or buying convenience items is usually frowned upon. It makes people feel like they're not accomplishing anything in the game, or if somebody chooses to, play the game, put in the hours in an MMO to level up a character, they lose all sense of accomplishment when somebody can come and drop $20 and have the same amount of progress that they do. So that's a big no-no that people don't really like with the cash shop in monetization. But obviously, let's get to to our bread and butter here of one of the biggest problems is talking about loot box / gotcha mechanics. So we already mentioned here that limited time characters, weapons, gotcha skins generally are your typical pieces for it. This is really bad because with the limited time, you are really maximizing on FOMO here. This is really hard and really annoying because it limits characters, weapons, and gotcha skins all behind RNG mechanics that have a dollar value associated with them, which a lot of people just think is pretty shit. And let me be clear here. I understand in a free-to-play game, you got to find ways to monetize that game. So personally, I'm a fan of just monetizing with skins. But I understand they're trying to monetize and get every dollar that they can. And I think other people do too. And that's why a lot of people don't treat them seriously. Now, I know what some of you might be saying, but pity, there's pity in the gotcha, so it's not that bad. Except the only problem is the pities for these games are exceptionally high. For example, in Genshin Impact, you've got $325 per character. And that's not quite as much as, Wuthering Waves, because it does also still have a 50-50, but it is a little bit lower, and the dollar conversion is slightly lower as well, from my understanding. So it might not be as high as $325, but it's still $325. That's crazy expensive for a single character to be adding to the game. That's multiple AAA titles you could purchase right now. Now, are all the AAA titles right now worth playing? I think that's another conversation, but that's really not a great look. So gotcha games have a much lower barrier to entry in terms of playing because you don't have the pay-to-play model where you have to pay up front. It has pretty predatory monetization practices when it comes to the cash shop and the loot box / gotcha mechanics resulting in buying power. So the monetization already not that great, but we haven't really addressed now demographic issues. So let's jump in and talk about the demographics, generally speaking, when it comes to gotcha games. Who are the said demographics? First demographic is children. Look, the vast majority of gotcha games built in a particular way that it's very easy for people to play, and the vast majority, not all of them, before you frickin' one exception to the rule me, not all of them, but the vast majority are targeted towards children because they want to capture the biggest audience possible, and so they are catering it to a younger audience. Again, for example, Genshin, very clearly. Next one is it caters to the parasocial weirdos. These people who are overly connected to characters within the game, make it their profile pictures, and are connected to them like they're real people, which leads to some of the most insane dialogues that I've ever seen online. Some of these stands are absolutely crazy. If you are an actual dedicated member of any of these mains Reddits, whether it's Firefly mains or anything like that, y'all are crazy. It always ends up being crazy. Y'all need to chill for a minute. The third demographic that it generally caters to is degenerates. A large majority of gotcha games are seen as fan service filled degenerate hellscapes, especially to normies. I want to harp on this for a second. So many of you have internet brain rot where you look at the characters in these games and you're like, they're not that bad. These characters actually are pretty good. When any other normal person who would look at them and be like, dude, that's sexualized like crazy and it's kind of weird. Normies especially. How do I know this? I've encountered this. I will regularly show characters of these games to people who don't play them, just so I can try and keep myself grounded here and understanding that this is more sexualized than you think. This is a little bit further than you might expect. And you need to have those people around to know that. And I hope this is a wake-up call for you for realizing that. Now, I'm not going to hardline and say this is actually fully fixed here and say, generally speaking though, this is the perception. These are the perceptions of all the people that play this game. I'm sure there are some normal people that play these games, but broadly speaking, these are your player profiles in gotcha games. So, if we just combine here for a minute, we've got horrible monetization in this free-to-play model that's not looked at well in terms of the buying power standpoint, with crazy high pity rates and predatory monetization with FOMO-riddled packs that are getting people sucked into there, and a demographic of children, parasocial weirdos, and degenerates. What's the conclusion we come to? Well, the conclusion you end up with is you end up with a FOMO-ridden product that capitalizes on the naivete of children and the degeneracy of parasocial weirdos who want to goon like crazy and brag about how good at a game they are, even when skill is equal to your wallet size most of the time. The game developers monetize this way to manipulate players into spending an insane amount of money on characters they don't need when they could buy several one-time purchase games instead. Now, I know some of you might be ticked right now and you might be thinking like, Connor, why are you saying this? Why are you going so hard on gacha games? I'm trying to explain to you, this is why they're seen as a joke. This summary right here is why when people think of gacha games, they don't see them as real games. They see them as slop to be capitalized on, full of all of the predatory monetization practices to weird demographics to get as much money as possible. So of course, anybody who's got that base level understanding of the game isn't going to treat the game seriously. They're just not going to. Now, I don't fully agree with that. I think gacha as a monetization model, while definitely far from the best model, doesn't mean a gacha game can't be good. And I want to explore that a little more further with a little caveat I have down here. So my additional note here is that obviously there are more normal, well-adjusted people like myself, obviously, who want a more casual product that is accessible from their phone because they don't have the time to sit down for hours at a TV screen anymore. That's one of the reasons I initially gravitated to gacha games, was being able to play it on my phone. Also, with new innovations in the genre with games like Zenless Zone Zero and Wuthering Waves, gacha games are proving that they can offer a gameplay experience that rivals a AAA or AA product. But that does not remove the fact that these other components, particularly the monetization and gambling being marketed to kids, are generally part of the space, which has a bad look. And that's often why people will still joke about it. That does not mean I want to give up on gacha games wholesale. Like, I had somebody ask me, they're like, well, if you think so negatively about this, do you even enjoy playing these games? Yeah, I do. If I'm being honest with myself, I still have a lot of fun playing these games. But just because I have fun playing them doesn't mean I have to be ignorant to the realities of the situation. I love playing Zenless Zone Zero right now. It's probably my current top gacha game in terms of like its casual play. I love the gameplay style, love the characters, love all the game modes that they're adding. I think the new update is going to be really phenomenal as it does come out. I'm actually unironically excited for the freaking Fall Guys minigame ripoff with the Bang Boos. Yes, we know it's a ripoff, but that's okay. I think it's going to be fun anyway. So of course, I do enjoy playing these games. I wouldn't have been covering them on my channel if I didn't actually enjoy them. But you got to just be real sometimes and look at what the product is right now. Do I think this is forever? Do I think gacha games are stuck with this? I think gacha games can change many of the tropes that it is tied to. You know, Gen 1 gacha games definitely were seen as, again, cash grab slop. I'm talking about some of those older gacha game titles that are basically just menu simulators. But we are seeing, again, a new generation of gacha game that's being rolled out where we're actually seeing better execution on that. Renacida is a huge patch and has gotten nothing but praise from the community. So we can see the quality that can come along with it. But at the end of the day, loot box mechanics and gacha mechanics suck. And I think in many cases, it gets in the way of a good product as opposed to elevating the product. It's monetization first, gameplay second. And so at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and morally grandstand about a gacha game. I'm just not. I don't think it's a problem if you do play them. I play them. I even cover them. So look, I'm not going to condemn you either. But that's just the reality of the situation. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. We're just trying to have some fun with this one. Try and educate people a little bit on the space about why people make the jokes that they do. And when somebody says the statement, guys, it's at the end of the day, it's a gacha game. We all know why. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.